Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's biggest stars and some of my favourite people, and we've got one for you today. Engelbert Humperdinck is a Leicestershire legend who has taken the world by storm with Release Me, The Last Waltz, and now he has a brand new album which is, I think, his most touching ever. The Man I Want to Be is available on Friday. He's a man who's sold 150 million records around the world, and I'm delighted to say Engelbert joins us on the phone now. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Alex. Thank you very much.
Do you know, I look at your career and it puts me in mind of Ken Dodd, who I had on the show last week. He's just turned 90. And to think that you've lived a life in show business twice as long as I've been on the planet is extraordinary.
I must say Ken Dodd is quite a character. I love him, actually.
It's the same thing, isn't it, that you've got? I mean, you've never known life where you've not been famous or not had an audience. I guess at this point it must become very normal to get a round of applause.
Well, it's wonderful. It's one of the greatest feelings anybody could ever have. A round of applause, but a standing ovation is like you feel as though you feel like something very, very special when that happens.
Tell me about what you were like as a child. Were you born singing?
No, I was a very shy young boy. I used to sing with the family. I learned. My sister taught me how to sing harmony, and so whenever the family got together and was singing, I would be the person singing harmony if my eldest sister wasn't there. But she was the one that taught me, and I went through growing up not knowing exactly what I wanted to do, and then one day I heard a record by Jimmy Dorsey playing a song called So Rare, and he plays the alto sax, and I thought, my name is Dorsey, and this is Jimmy, and he's doing a great job, so maybe I'd like to be a musician like him. So I got an alto sax, and at the age of 11 I started playing alto sax and learned taking lessons. And the way I paid for it was I did a paper round, and with that money I bought a musical lesson that week, and this went on for some time, and until I was about 17, and I was able to go into a little club, a working men's club, with my brother, and we sat down and everybody was getting up singing. So I thought, well, I'll have a go at this, and I got what you call a standing ovation from the song I was singing. And I was only used to singing harmony at that time, but I sang this melody, and people loved it, and they said, "Who is your manager? Who's your agent?" And I said, I'm not in show business. I just did it for fun.
Wow.
And that started the ball rolling. You see, accidents do happen, and for the best at times. And that was an accident that I was happy to have.
You have one of those voices that is so full and rich. Was it always like that? Because the resonance of your voice is so incredible now. Has that come with age?
I think it has, yes. And I think, I do listen to my past recordings, and I say to myself, oh gosh, I could do that so much better today, but I've gained experience, and I've gained the fact that I'm a more commercial singer in today's world, because as you get older, your vibrato gets slower. But mine hasn't. Mine has remained the same, and I use it sparingly now, to keep in with the vogue of singing that is happening in today's world.
And I don't want to upset you so early on in the interview, Engelbert, but what were the hits you turned down? I always hear these stories of legends that they said, that'll never be a hit, and it goes on to be known 50 years later. Did you have any of those?
No, I didn't have any of those, but I did have songs that were taken from me that became hits, like, for instance, Strangers in the Night, and Can't Smile Without You is one I recorded, was going to be my next single.
Right.
But because it was released, it was free for other people to take. So Barry Manilow took it and I did number one with it, It pisses me off, if you want to know the truth.
When I listen to the words of something like The Last Waltz, I wondered, should I go or stay? These songs are really sad when you think about them because they touch our hearts. I think that's the key to them being remembered. It's all in the lyric, isn't it?
It is. It's in the lyric. Yeah, lyric and good melodies. Good melodies always stay with you in your head if you don't remember the lyric. is there. But Les Reed wrote some wonderful melodies, and like Les Bicyclettes de Versailles, and Last Waltz, he wrote the Last Waltz, of course, and many others, for me. Miracles, a song called Miracles, Where There's No You, absolutely brilliant melodies, and Barry Mason did the lyric.
I try karaoke occasionally, and I made the mistake once of trying to sing The Last Waltz. That goes pretty high, doesn't it? On a bad day, do you get nervous you're going to make that note?
No, it doesn't bother me. I've been singing it for too long now. There are times when, if you have been working or there's a change of climate and you get a little bit of soreness in your throat, those are the times that bother me about high notes. But in today's world, with the kind of stuff, ear pieces on stage and the way the sound is mixed, it does give you a big helping hand. You're not really singing it raw. You're having a help with the technology.
And I guess for you, there's no greater thrill than having an orchestra behind you when those strings and horns are doing the business, and there you are on top of it.
I love it. The big orchestra, the better. I was going to do a concert here, I think it was 3 years ago, and with the BBC Orchestra, and I got sick at the time, but I did rehearse with them, and it was magnificent. Yeah. And my band that I carry and augment into big orchestras when it is possible, they were astounded by the British quality of musicians.
We look at this brand new album, and it's quite thrilling. I tell you on two levels. One, there are songs like Photograph and I Followed My Heart, which sort of have a reflective quality to them. But then you bring it bang up to date by singing songs like Just the Way You Are. Even on Broadway, it's very clever what you've done here. You've given nods to the past that the traditional fans will love, but then you've given them something brand new. That's a smart move, especially at your age. You love staying contemporary, don't you?
I like that. Yes, I like that. And of course, I have the help of a great musician. I don't know whether you know the name Johnny Harris, but Johnny now lives in California, and it was him that I asked to do the arrangement of Broadway, and he'd give it a nice twist, doesn't he?
Yeah, beautiful. And the orchestrations and the way you do it, especially with something like Just the Way You Are, it is completely different. It's a different song to how we know it from Bruno. Incredible.
Just the Way You Are was done by a British arranger over here in London. I think he did an amazing job and changed it around so people thought I wasn't emulating the original.
Do you love keeping your eye on the charts and staying current and being aware of who's good and who's popular and who's not?
I do. You see, I do watch these shows, the talent shows and The Voice and things like that, and see, because they are guided in the right direction, and they're always given things that are current to sing. So therefore, that keeps me up to date with what's happening, and I like to do that. Because I think life is a constant lesson of learning. You have to learn. If you think you know it all, you're finished. I think you're learning every day. There is a learning experience taking place in your life.
That's a beautiful strategy at 81. That's remarkable.
Thank you.
Incredible. And then we look at those shows. I mean, Tom Jones is happy to sit there and judge people. Would you be tempted to be a judge on X Factor or The Voice or one of these programs?
I would because of my experience of recognizing talent and my experience with the musical world. But if I'm not chosen, it doesn't bother me because I love what I'm doing right now, and traveling around the world and letting people see the face behind the disc, and see what I'm up to date, what's happening to me today.
There's one period of your life that I'm personally fascinated by. I've loved Las Vegas for over 15 years. I go twice a year to speak to the stars and make a program there. You were there during the heyday. I know you still go there now, but it's different. What was it like at its peak? Was there a particular year where even you pinch yourself and couldn't believe those names on the billboards?
Yeah, I really couldn't believe it. I mean, when I first went there was half a dozen hotels, and it was definitely a desert, because the way of life was a lot different. For instance, for the performer, they were well taken care of. given all the amenities and everything, it was a luxurious time in a performer's life. And you walk down the street and you see people like Sinatra and Tony Bennett, and people of massive names in the past. And when you have time, I usually used to go in like a day earlier. And I would go and see a show of some massive name. And after the show, you can go to a lounge, see a lounge show. Yeah. And then you see the names where people that are in the lounge move up to the bigger room, I never did that. I went straight into the big room, thank God, when I went there.
Incredible.
And you did suffer with a thing called Vegas throat because of being the desert, you had to have that air conditioning, which is, some kind of stuff they put in there that caused you to lose your voice. But mostly, it's Vegas throat was no sleep.
Too much fun.
Too much fun. Yeah, you finish your own show, then you went to see a lounge show, and in the daytime you would go out on a boat on the lake, or you'd be playing golf or tennis or whatever it is, and still did 2 shows at night. In those days, it was amazingly hard work. For the artist to do 2 shows. Now it's just 1 show, and I don't think the younger artists can handle a month at a time.
I wonder whether the class has gone. I mean, we've got Celine there, who is still so beautiful and so stunning and incredible as a performer, and she's probably the nearest thing to a legend. There is Donnie and Marie, but to think that you were in one casino in a room next to Elvis Presley and, as you say, the Rat Pack, just incredible. Would you indulge me with an Elvis story? Because to me, he's the greatest of them all. Was he to you?
He was to me, yes, indeed. As a matter of fact, I didn't see him first, but he came to see me first in Vegas, and he was at my show, and I had the opportunity of introducing him. And when I introduced him, this man stood up on the table, and he opened his cape like Batman. He didn't know what to do, and the audience went berserk, absolutely berserk, and me being a greenhorn, and just starting in Vegas, I said, what am I going to do? This audience is going crazy for Elvis. This is my show. So I hushed him up and I said, hey. I said, Elvis, this is my show. And anyway, when I went backstage and I spoke to him, he was such a delightful man. He had, he was so humble, because he said to me, he says, Engelbert, was my introduction all right for you? Oh. I said, when I went to see him, and he said, was my introduction all right for you? So
wow.
That's the kind of man he was. And I want to tell you something. When I met him for the first time and he came to see me, he didn't shake my hand. He embraced me.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was the beginning of a relationship, just for a few years, but a good one. And I said to him, of course, I had the sideburns before Elvis. You know that, do you?
Well, he nicked it off you, didn't he? Let's face it.
I started the sideburns. I took it to America. Because I'll tell you why. There was a show that he was doing, and somebody was sketching his clothes that he was going to wind up with. Remember the white suit?
Yeah,
with the high
sparkles.
Well, this sketch was presented to him on a live show, and he looked at it and he said, "Hell, that's not me. That's Engelbert Humperdinck." So it was quite a compliment. The other thing he said, which was rather interesting, I would like to tell you. A man wrote a story about his life, right? And he went around interviewing the people that Elvis surrounded himself with. And he did interview one of his bodyguards. And Elvis, he said to him, who did Elvis like in show business? And of course he named a few, and mine came up.
Wow.
And he said, the reason I like Engelbert, he says, because he kind of reminds me of the brother I lost, my twin brother I lost at birth. I guess that's one of the reasons. I'm just assuming, that the sideburns came in and he tried to, use me as a brother.
How remarkable. And then we look at age and moving on, and as the years go by, I've spoken to many people, one of which was Cliff Richard, about sort of the heyday of the fame and the girls and all of that stuff. It was a different time. We have to remember the 60s and 70s was different. Did you get upset when you saw all of this mudslinging that went on with people like Cliff? Because it's so unfair.
It was unfair, yeah, because I remember Cliff in the early days. He is a massive star, and he's had so many number one hits, more than anybody ever had in the UK. And he seemed such a decent guy all around, and whenever I met him, he was always wonderful to me and nice to me. And I fail to think that he could be what they made out of him to be.
Yeah.
I fail to think that at all.
Does it ever become normal when girls scream at you? I'm a deeply unattractive man, Engelbert. I've got to be honest with you. I've never had that. Does it ever become normal, that level of adoration? Because they scream loud for you.
It's not. It doesn't become normal for me. No, it's always an exciting moment.
Yeah.
I have to say that. I'm not just saying that to calm down your question. I'm saying it because it's true.
Right.
I always think to myself, is it me? But yes, it's the same way as when you look at your achievements through life. And I walk into my den and I see all those gold and platinum albums, and I think, is this all mine?
Yeah.
But it is, and it's the hard work that we put in, the many hours in the studios, that made it possible for me to appreciate these wonderful trophies.
One of the most touching things on the new album is the nod to Patricia and the fact that you've got your son and grandkids on this album. I guess for you, the greatest legacy is family. Above all the Vegas, above all the number one records, above all the adoration, is family number one.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I have to tell you that on my last album, I did a duet album. I did include my daughter and my youngest son, as bonus tracks on the album, and they did a tremendous job on it.
Yeah.
And now my daughter's daughter is a wonderful. Did you hear her voice on there?
Incredible.
She's 9 years old. She's 9 years old.
Yeah.
It's just she sings like a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
She's got phrasing that I never thought a young girl of 9 could have like that. She scats. For a 9-year-old to scat like the way she does it, it's unbelievable, and it's all in tune.
And again, on the track, I'm Glad I Danced With You, the feeling within it is so powerful, because there's nothing more wonderful than family and the notion and the thoughts that brings, because we can all relate to it.
Yes, and she's the silent voice of my wife singing this song, and it's what I would have loved my wife to do with me, but my granddaughter is doing it in a very fine and respectful way.
One of the things that I can't comprehend is knowing somebody as a young, beautiful, vibrant woman, and then one day realizing they've got an illness like Alzheimer's and almost losing them. I know you keep the faith, don't you, that she'll get better. I guess this is one of the toughest challenges of life. Age is tough, and it's tough to overcome, isn't it?
I never give up on anything. I love the challenge, and I know, and I have faith. Yes, I do have faith, and I have doctors who are good friends, and I keep up with it. Wherever I go, I ask questions. Is there anything around here that can cure this dreadful disease? Not only for the Alzheimer's, but other diseases. The people that are sick around the world that I know, that I try to help. In any which way, I try to help people with my knowledge of what I know about medication and the people I've spoken to.
Yeah. How is she right now?
Actually, she's making progress, which I'm really thrilled about. And I say this in all honesty because it's not possible after 7 or 8 years for anybody to talk again. But she's beginning to talk again. And now she's having treatment. The reason I don't bring her home this much is because the climatic changes is not good for her brain,
Right.
And so I try to keep her in one environment and give her the treatments on a regular basis so that it can progress. And that's one of the reasons I brought her home last Christmas, and it didn't help. It threw her back a few months, and and I thought, I can't do this again. I must make her better before I bring her home. Yeah. And I had it all fixed to come home this year, but I changed my mind. It's better she keeps having the treatment. Let her get better before I can take her on a long trip like this. Yeah. But she is making progress, because for the simple reason, there's a doctor in LA, at the UCLA, who discovered how to turn skin cells into stem cells, and I have another doctor who's an acupuncturist who uses electronic power where he puts the needles in strategic positions and transfers the stem cells that he's getting to the brain. And it renews the brain. It gets rid of the old plaque and renews it with new cells. And this is what she's been going through for the last couple of years, and it has made some significant progress. And because she is talking again, she's saying hello, and she's making sense with what she's saying. Wow. And for me, this is very, very inspiring and very, very rewarding to know that there must be a cure. I mean, this is a type of cure, but I'm sure the pharmaceutical companies do have something for Alzheimer's, but they won't release it yet. And I don't know why. I'm sure they do. I'm sure they have cures for so many other diseases.
And I guess it's tiny little steps, isn't it? Just one word a week is enough. One little glimmer of hope is enough to give you the faith to continue.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And the glimmer of hope of her saying, like, for instance, if I say to her at night, I say, "Good night, my darling," she says, "Good night," and I say, "God bless you," and sometimes she'll repeat the words I say.
Wow.
Yeah, which is remarkable. It's never happened before.
Is there any way of describing, especially at something like Christmas, having all your family around you and the grandkids?
My own children are wonderful. They do help me in every which way, and I'm grateful for it. And when I'm not around, if I'm on the road like I am now, I have my youngest son is me. He's looking after his mother right now. Although he has a job, he does come home, and he can take my place for a while, and give her the love and care and attention that a child would give his mother.
You should be incredibly proud of the joy and the happiness and the love and the fun that you've brought to people's lives over many decades. I want to thank you for your time, and really congratulations on this new album. The Man I Want to Be is available on Friday. It's a glorious celebration of your voice, really. We get to hear the old Engelbert and new Engelbert, that wonderful, resonant, beautiful voice that you have so effortlessly. And congratulations on 50 years in show business. And again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, sir. That's very kind of you. Thank you.